As we continue our discussion, we're going to get into how Meg chooses her guests, which is then going to lead into the following segment, which is going to be about how she leverages her podcast and what the value of it is to her business.
How do you pick who you want to speak with?
Well, I mean, for me, it has been an evolution. When I started NJ Criminal Podcast, I was interviewing attorneys in my practice area, in my geographic area. Basically, I started out with friends, former colleagues, current colleagues, bosses, and then we talked about how they got into what they wanted to do and how they became a lawyer, and it was more of a biographical. And then as time went on, I saw value in discussing current topics, and so I chose people. I reached out to people that I thought would make me sound smart, would teach me something. I'm a New Jersey criminal practitioner, but at the same time, there's a lot that I don't know. And I think it's important to be able to, I'm humble enough to be able to say, hey, I'm really interested in, for example, cannabis and how that's going to impact the criminal justice system. And so I just basically looked at people that I thought would be interesting guests to help me learn different areas that I was not necessarily familiar with. And so, for me, the value of NJ Criminal Podcast has been twofold. Number one, my visibility has gone through the roof. I mean, you talk about SEO. I'm not a techie person by any stretch of the imagination, but just by having content to put out on my different social media platforms, my practice and me as an attorney, I have become much more visible. So that's number one. And then number two, I've just been able to network with so many different people and meet so many different people. You and I have had this conversation for a couple years about how, podcasting is kind of like getting, the listener being able to be like a fly on the wall, at a cocktail party or any other kind of networking event. And you get to really, I've gotten to really meet a lot of really neat people, and it spirals from there. And, just because of that, I mean, I've said this to you many, many times. I don't do any other marketing. I do no other advertising. And I went back just for the heck of it and looked to see, the effect that it has had on my gross revenue. And in 2 years of podcasting, my gross revenue doubled. And I can't attribute it to anything other than the two things that I just talked about: visibility and networking. So and on top of it all, which is probably the most important, I enjoy it. I'm having fun doing it. And that's how I think of my podcast. Hey, let's talk. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you're an expert in. Tell me how that affects me, how that affects my clients. And so the conversations are really informal. They're a lot of fun. That's the reason why I do it. I get that question all the time. Why do you podcast? Why would I do this? Well, that's why. And any attorney that thinks they don't have time to do it is crazy. Attorneys spend all day long on the phone. It's nothing more than that. It's a phone call. It's a conversation.